The footage shows workers inside a battery manufacturing area. Dense smoke suddenly begins rising from one of the stacked lithium batteries. The employees notice the situation and try to move the batteries away to control the risk before it escalates. However, within a very short time, the batteries start reacting one after another, producing flashes and pressurized flames. The area quickly fills with smoke and the situation becomes extremely difficult to control. This incident shows how quickly and dangerously lithium batteries can react when damaged or overheated. If smoke appears, no intervention should be attempted. The area must be evacuated and emergency procedures must be followed. The rule is clear: if there is smoke, do not approach. Keep your distance and retreat to a safe zone. In Xi'an, Shanxi province, a worker was performing maintenance on a robotic machine in an industrial facility. While the equipment remained active, the worker approached the robotic arm to inspect or adjust components. Unexpectedly, the robotic arm moved and made contact with the worker against part of the machinery. Robotic systems can move unexpectedly, even during perceived idle moments. Clear signage, mandatory pre-maintenance shutdown checks, and team verification of energy isolation. In a facility in China, a worker was positioned near a conveyor belt system that was actively operating. While attempting to retrieve gloves that had fallen into the moving mechanism, the worker leaned toward the belt rather than stopping the system. At that moment, the conveyor continued moving and the worker became caught by the equipment. Nearby personnel responded quickly by stopping the conveyor and securing the area. This incident highlights the importance of fully stopping and isolating conveyor systems. The footage shows dangerous moments as a tipped dump truck is being lifted upright with the help of a crane. While the truck is suspended in the air, several workers on the ground try to manually guide it. However, while the vehicle is still fully supported by the crane, one of the cables suddenly snaps. The truck, weighing several tons, falls uncontrollably, and within seconds, the situation turns into a serious hazard. This incident clearly shows how entering the area beneath a suspended load during lifting operations is life-threatening. A chain or hook can fail at any moment, therefore the area must be secured. The load should be stabilized from 2 points, and no one should ever stand under it. The rule is clear. Clear the area, keep your distance, and never go under a crane load. Inside a cotton processing factory, a worker was assigned to operate a cotton baler as part of routine production activities. The machine was actively compacting material when a minor operational issue was noticed within the baler chamber. Instead of stopping and isolating the equipment, the worker stepped into the operating area to address the issue while the machine remained energized. At that moment, the baler cycle resumed, and the worker came into contact with the moving components of the machine. This incident illustrates the critical importance of fully shutting down and isolating baler equipment before any inspection, adjustment, or troubleshooting is attempted. Cotton balers can restart automatically or continue cycles without warning, creating serious hazards inside the operating chamber. In another incident, a worker instinctively reached into an operating rolling mill to clear a jam. Because the system was not stopped, the rotating rollers pulled the worker inward within seconds, creating an extremely dangerous situation. Such accidents show how hazardous it is to intervene in moving machinery while it is running. Before any adjustment or cleaning, the machine must be completely shut down, all energy isolated, and lockout-tagout, low-tow, applied. Nip point areas must be guarded, emergency stop controls must be easily accessible, and operators should receive regular training. In another incident, the heavy motorized top drive system that rotates the drill string unexpectedly engaged while inspections were being carried out. At the same time, the pipe string was rotating and moving downward near ground level. While the assistant driller was at the control panel, 3 other workers were positioned around the rotary table. Suddenly, the elevator link tail began to spin uncontrollably, striking nearby personnel and pinning them toward the A-frame. This incident shows how dangerous high-torque rotating equipment can be on drilling sites. Such systems must never be approached without isolating all energy and applying lockout-tagout (LOTO). Before any inspection, all energy sources must be isolated, the system shutdown status verified, and unnecessary personnel kept clear of rotating equipment. What seemed like a routine lifting operation inside a factory showed how a small mistake when working with heavy loads can create serious risks. A worker was attaching ropes to a metal frame that was about to be lifted by a crane. However, before the load was fully secured, the crane began to move. The frame suddenly shifted and lost its balance. The worker instinctively tried to hold and steady the load with his hands, but the heavy metal slid uncontrollably, creating a dangerous crushing situation. This incident shows why suspended loads should never be handled by hand. Loads must be properly secured, their balance checked, and guided only with suitable equipment. Before lifting, the area around the crane must be kept clear. The rule is simple. Safety with suspended loads comes from distance, planning, and proper procedures. Workers standing beneath a suspended steel beam were exposed to a serious danger when one of the wire slings supporting the crane load snapped. As the cable failed, the load swung uncontrollably in midair and came down onto the truck bed, missing the workers by only a few centimeters. This incident highlights how dangerous it is to stand under suspended loads or within the drop zone during lifting operations. Personnel must be kept clear of the swing path, and the area should be isolated with barriers. Equipment must be inspected regularly, and roles and safe distances should be clearly defined before every lift. At a construction site in Jiangsu Province, China, workers were conducting overhead lifting operations involving steel pipes suspended by a crane. During the hoisting process, the support frame that guided the load tilted, causing the steel pipe to fall unexpectedly. A worker positioned below attempted to move out of the path of the falling material but was struck. This event occurred amidst routine material handling on an active construction project. Lifting equipment and support structures must be verified for alignment, load capacity, and secure anchoring prior to use. The footage shows a worker using a magnetic crane to lift a large steel block from a rail cart and place it onto a forklift. At first glance, the operation appears to be under control, but the length of the lifted block extends far beyond the forklift forks, and its weight exceeds the machine's safe carrying capacity. As the load remains suspended, swinging increases, balance is lost, and control becomes increasingly difficult for both the crane and the forklift. Within seconds, the operation turns into a high-risk situation. This incident shows how serious the risks can be when loads are not properly assessed during lifting and transport operations. Lifts performed without considering weight dimensions and the center of gravity can quickly lead to loss of control. At an industrial production site, a worker was overseeing an active machine during routine operations. While the equipment remained in motion, the worker placed a hand into the operating area to address a perceived issue without first stopping the machine. As a result, the hand made contact with a moving component while the system was still energized. This incident underscores the critical need to never place hands or tools near moving machine components while equipment is operating. The footage shows a large glass panel being lifted by two crane operators working together. While the panel, weighing around 700 pounds, is suspended in the air, it loses balance and begins to rotate uncontrollably. The swinging glass moves toward the edge of the building and passes only a few centimeters from the crew working below before crashing to the ground. Everything happens within seconds, and a very serious accident is narrowly avoided. This incident demonstrates how critical control is when lifting heavy and fragile loads, such as glass. At an industrial recycling facility, a worker was operating a grapple-equipped scrap excavator used to feed material into a scrap baler. During the operation, the worker exited the excavator cab and entered the working area near the baler, without fully stopping or isolating the equipment. While the machinery remained active, an incident occurred involving the operating zone of the scrap baler. This incident highlights the critical importance of never entering the operating area of a scrap baler or material processing machine while equipment is energized. Operators must fully shut down and isolate all machinery before exiting the cab or approaching processing zones. Clear lockout procedures, physical barriers around balers, and strict rules requiring operators to remain in the cab during active cycles are essential controls to prevent similar incidents in recycling and scrap handling environments. In addition, regular safety audits and supervision can help ensure that all personnel consistently follow these procedures. Visual warnings, signage, and safety training refreshes should reinforce the dangers of entering active machinery zones. Implementing a buddy system or requiring confirmation from another trained worker before approaching the machine can further reduce risk.